Hi everyone, and welcome to the 15th episode of Battles and Voices. I'm Latika, and I'm the founder and host,
And I'm Camden, and I'm the co-host.
and we serve on the executive team of Battles and Voices. Battles and Voices shines a light on the human side of healthcare, sharing the real stories and experiences of professionals in a way that inspires and guides countless students and aspiring medical leaders all around the world.
Please welcome our guest, Miss Grace Kim.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Grace, thank you so much for joining us. So to start, could you give us a brief introduction about yourself and kind of the work that you do?
of course. Again, thank you for having me. My name is Grace. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner and the founder of my private practice, Rediscovered Psychiatry. I specialize in trauma-informed, non-coercive psychiatric care, and I focus on eating disorders, mood disorders, anxiety, and ADHD. My practice is located virtually serving patients in New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey. Um, and I primarily work through an insurance-based model because I really believe that healthcare should be accessible. A little bit about sort of the work that I do. My work blends, I think, my own lived experience navigating the healthcare system with my own training as a provider at the bedside and now in private practice, trying to create the kind of care that I wish just honors our own humanity. And so that's a little bit about me. Thank you for having me.
Of course, anytime. You've had such a powerful personal journey. What inspired you to enter the healthcare field and focus on psychiatric care?
No problem. That's a good question. I entered the mental health field kind of a combination of personal and professional experiences. I think I've been on the patient side of psychiatry as a loved one and then as a patient myself. Um, and then later on as a medical provider. And I know firsthand what it feels like to feel unseen, over medicalized, minimized. And I think that experience personally, paired with years of working at the bedside as a nurse, showed me how deeply I think patients crave to be understood and not just treated. And so I chose psychiatry because I really wanted to offer care that was collaborative, one that was compassionate, deeply human, and one that sort of meets people when they're most vulnerable. And I think in psychiatry, medication is a tool, but not the only story, like only part of the story to healing, which is, I think, different than I would say other, maybe more medical focused fields. Psychiatry is medical, but
Yeah, definitely. So you talked about how mental health can be such a challenging space, especially with system barriers now in the world. What motivates you to keep going even in the most difficult situations?
Hmm. Honestly, I think now more than ever, our healthcare system is deeply unstable. And when things get difficult, because it's a given that it'll be difficult in this field, it's the people that I care for that really make it worth it, especially on the hardest days. Seeing someone reclaim a little bit of hope or finally be able to sleep for the first time or reconnect with something that they used to once love, or to be able to find joy in activities that they struggled with before. I think it reminds me of why this work matters. Um, but then also, I think, when it's the most difficult, I'm reminded a lot of the communities that I represent. So I am a woman of color. I'm someone who grew up navigating sort of my American identity and my Korean identity, and as someone who is queer, married, and told in our society time and time again that we don't deserve to take up space, I think creating this space of safety and representation in psychiatry is a part of what keeps me grounded and moving forward, no matter the circumstances.
It's
That's so
wonderful.
beautiful.
Hmm.
You've shared that eating disorders are a major passion of yours. Can you talk about why this issue matters to you and how you approach it with your work?
Yeah. So eating disorders, I think, are deeply misunderstood. And what I think it's not only just intellectually stimulating, but also so important is eating disorders sits right at the intersection of so many different things. It's not about just weight. It's not about vanity or looks. It's really about culture, struggling with identity, trauma, perfectionism, the deep need for control in a world that is so uncontrollable. And they're understood, especially misunderstood, especially in communities of color, and often treated with stigma instead of compassion and understanding. So my approach is very much rooted in the idea that bodies of all sizes and shapes deserve to take up space in this world, that we deserve to be in a world where there's weight inclusivity, that there is health, good health at any size, any body size. And it means that I work alongside patients to understand not just their symptoms and how they maybe see food or what their relationship with food is like, but the story behind how food became that tool of coping for them, and then helping them move forward toward healing without the shame or the stigma around that in our very sort of fat phobic culture that we live in.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's an important passion to be passionate about.
Yeah.
So, you said starting your own private practice is such a big step for you. Can you share what that journey was like for you and why it's something that you're especially proud of?
Yeah. First of all, I never saw myself doing private practice. I don't know about you both, but I'm a parent of immigrants. Sort of safety was the thing that was taught to me. Get that corporate healthcare job where you have a 401k, you have a steady, stable paycheck and schedule. And so starting my own private practice was terrifying and liberating. I left the security of like larger institutions to build something that felt very much aligned with my values. It was accessible, non-coercive, and sort of community centered. And there were quite a bit of, hurdles, I think, because I am a nurse practitioner and every state has very specific laws for credentialing and practice authority. Figuring that out was a challenge in the beginning, building policies from scratch, learning how to be a provider and sort of business owner, and how to do that ethically is something that I still think about and work through today. But I'm really proud, because I get to offer care in a way that feels very authentic. I'm not held to unrealistic, you know, bureaucratic standards for measuring success for patient care. And I get to make it sustainable for me as a human, where I can touch grass and I can take a break and I can go on vacations if I need to. And I also get to show other nurse practitioners and clinicians that it's possible to create something outside of this traditional mold that we're taught that we have to pursue.
Well, I think it is beautiful that you get to touch grass once in a while.
Yeah.
Um, moving on to the next question. How do you bring your own lived experiences navigating mental health, culture, and biracial identity into the way that you care for your patients?
Yeah. Um, so I see my lived experience, right, navigating mental health care first as a daughter and a loved one for my parent going through mental health, then as a patient myself, then as someone who's Korean American. I carry a lot of privilege and I think marginalized identities. And I think that really offers me a lens to help me connect with a variety of patients that come to see me. And I will never claim to fully understand anyone else's story, but I do know what it's like to feel unseen, unheard, stereotype, um, very sort of passed off or symptoms minimized or, symptoms sort of brushed under the rug. And that awareness, I think, shapes me in the way that I listen to my patients, the way that I chart, for example, protectively for our gender nonconforming patients, and the way that I collaborate with people instead of imposing decisions on them because a treatment center has these rules or because that's what a textbook tells me to do. But I really try to recognize the person in front of me as a human being that comes with me with, I would assume, a lot of maybe hurtful experiences already seeking mental health care. So I try to understand that my role can be one always of building trust or sort of burning that trust. And I take that very seriously. And I think that's helped me connect with a lot of my patients in a really like authentic, real human way.
Yeah, I love that. So looking ahead, what are some goals for Rediscovered Psychiatry, or for your broader work in mental health advocacy?
Ooh, So looking ahead, I think my goals are twofold. First, I definitely want Rediscovered Psychiatry, sort of my private practice, to grow sustainably so that I can care for more people, especially for those who might otherwise be left out of care because of financial or systemic barriers. So I'm thinking sort of within my business model, allocating a certain amount of patients that I can see pro bono or for at a very, very reduced cost, which is very hard to find, I think, in psychiatry and medication management services. And then second, I think what I really want to do is I want to keep using my platform for advocacy, whether that's educating about non-coercive psychiatry, or challenging the stigma around eating disorders, um, and for pushing, systemic changes from the bottom up to make care a lot more humane.
That's
That is so
wonderful.
cool. And finally, what advice would you like to give the students or aspiring healthcare professionals who want to make an impact in mental health?
Ooh, This is actually not my advice. It's advice that I got from somebody when I started nursing school, which was stay very close to your why. So the reason why you are going into healthcare. The system, talking about healthcare system in general and as a whole, will inevitably wear you down, whether it's with paperwork, productivity measures, moral injury, sexism, burnout, whatever it is. It's really not made to be sustainable. But if you remember the people that you're doing this for, the ones who need the care, uh, you'll always find ways to keep your work human and patient focused. Uh, so definitely stay close to your why. And then also, I think this is for all the creatives out there that also go into healthcare. Don't be afraid to create your own path. I think, now more than ever, we know healthcare the way it is isn't enough. It's not working. It's so broken, and the field needs more creative minds and more voices willing to say something is not working and to challenge the status quo and reimagine what healthcare can really look like that serves the people.
That's wonderful advice.
I really love that advice. So, Grace, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story with us.
You're so
Your
welcome.
your perspective shows the importance of centering compassion, advocacy, and community in healthcare. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this episode of Battles and Voices. We hope Grace's journey has inspired you to keep pushing for more human-centered care in medicine.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, please don't forget to follow, share, and stay tuned for more inspiring stories. We'll see you next time on Vitals of Voices.